Hello and welcome to The Complete MC, Volume 1. In this CD, what we're going to cover are the elements of freestyle. Not only freestyle for yourself or in a cypher, but also into a battle scenario. Now, of course, before we even touch the topic of battles, we have to start off with the freestyle. After all, you cannot be in a freestyle battle unless you truly know how to freestyle. We'll go over these various techniques to get you up and running as quickly as possible. From there, we'll move on to the battle scenario, going over the various characters that you'll encounter time and time again throughout rap battles, the inherent strengths and weaknesses of each of their positions, and how you can overcome them by changing your own style. A freestyle is basically the basis of an MC. Lord knows we all know somebody who says, "Oh man, I don't freestyle, I just write. I'm a writer. Yeah, right. Somebody who just writes rhymes, they're not an MC. You have to be able to come off the top and spontaneously. Think of it like jazz. You never see a jazz musician who says that they can't improvise. Improvisation is the key to progress and success, particularly as an MC. It helps you with your vocab expansion. It helps you to put words together that normally you wouldn't think would. Mistakes in a freestyle can lead to progress in your writing. We'll cover writing in the next CD. For now, let's get started. You know, I think some of the worst advice that aspiring MCs are getting nowadays pertaining to freestyles is that they should just practice. Practice makes perfect. I think that's a half-truth. If you really want to learn how to freestyle, you have to look at it like playing a guitar. You don't just pick up a guitar, after all, and start strumming, and that's how you learn to play. Anybody who's worth their weight when playing a guitar, they learn chords, you learn scales, you learn how the two incorporate with each other, you learn to put different chords together. And once you start to get this down, after a while, they're not even really thinking about it. They just do it. It's in their memory. It becomes automatic, and then they're able to do higher and better chord progressions. Freestyling is exactly the same way. After all, it's something that you do get better with time, but you have to make sure that the time you're putting into it, you're being as efficient as possible. So that's what we're going to go over right now. We're going to start with the basics. The basics are this. Think of every word that you know, your entire vocabulary. All the words that you have in your mind right now are merely chords. Some of them work well with each other, some of them don't. You can start to put them into groups and learn which words can rhyme off of each other. Think of these like chord progressions. What I want you to do right now is picture 5 words. Any words at all. Now with those 5 words, I want you to put between 3 and 5 other words that rhyme with those. So for example, if you have one of your 5 words is sound, I want you to remember 3 words that rhyme with sound. So you could say down, clown, surround, abound, get down. It really doesn't matter which words you use. The important thing here is to realize that there is a relationship between these words. They all rhyme. Memorize these words. Don't try and do 15 words that all rhyme together. Start small. If you're in the middle of a freestyle and you use the word down, for example, your mind should already immediately react and know 3 to 5 words that rhyme with that. And that's the key to making a freestyle work, is you have to go from the end and work backwards. Once you have a general idea of vocabulary, which words can rhyme, say you have 30, 40, 50 groups, and each one of those groups has 3 to 5 rhymes, your vocabulary consists of 150 chords that you can utilize whenever and wherever you want. So, to go with our example, if you use the word down, and your mind automatically knows that there's surround, get down, and abound, really all you have to do is say a phrase that ends with one of those 3 words. Once you've got that, you're golden. So I would think abound. So my first line would be, watch me on a mic spit right and get down. And I'm thinking abound. Working backwards from that, I just have to come up with a phrase that fits with the word abound. Such as, my skills are sovereign, overflow, and abound. Now, you can tell that's just off the top. That's just me thinking. But really, there was a lot of pre-thought that went into that, just because I used one of those chords. And that's what I want you to do. And this will be exercise number 1. I want you to put together 5 words, 3 to 5 rhymes for each word, and memorize them to the point that if you hear somebody even say it in a conversation, you'll know it. Now try and do this every day. You'll be amazed how in as short as 5 to 7 days, once you have this system going, your ability to rhyme will improve exponentially. Exercise number 2 will definitely help you out while you're freestyling. And this is very simple. What I want you to do is take these chord progressions that we've gone over, those 5 words with 3 to 5 rhymes per word. I want you to write them all down on a piece of paper. Take a look at them. And for 2 minutes, nothing more, nothing less, 2 minutes, I want you to freestyle using these words and these words alone. Now, of course, if you get distracted and use something else, that's fine. But just try and focus on these words. It should be enough. You have about 25 words in your arsenal right now. That should be enough to last about 2 minutes. And again, if you get distracted, don't get down about it. It's just part of the process. What this will do, it'll teach you 2 things. 1, it will teach you to understand how these chord progressions work. You'll learn mastery over them, and you'll memorize these chords quicker. So like I said earlier, it's already in your mind. You don't have to worry about, oh my God, what am I going to say next? Because that's when MCs tend to choke and worry. They don't know how to make a rhyme fit. Now, we're going to get to more advanced techniques a little bit later. For now, I just want you to take simple words and learn to bounce them off of each other. And furthermore, 2 minutes is not an arbitrary time. I didn't just come up with that. 2 minutes is the longest time you will probably ever have to freestyle in front of a crowd. This teaches you to be concise and to keep your focus. Most battles, you're looking at maybe 45 seconds to a minute. Sometimes it'll go up to a minute and a half, and at the absolute most, you're looking at 2 minutes. I want you to get used to the idea of freestyling for 2 minutes. I don't want you to freestyle for 15 seconds, although you will probably have to do that at some point when you start learning to rhyme off of bars. I want you to get comfortable with this time limit because as someone who's been in numerous ciphers throughout his life, it drives me crazy dealing with people who will just freestyle for 5 or 6 minutes at a time. Okay, if you're Supernatural or if you're Juice, cool, take your time. But if you're some schmuck off the street, after about 2 minutes, people don't really care anymore. Learn to be concise, develop your skills. So for 2 minutes, do it right now. Pause this, take 2 minutes, look at your list that you've compiled, and let it go. Welcome back. Hopefully you've given these practice exercises a couple run-throughs, and I imagine that by now you should be very comfortable with the words that you have written down. They should be in your memory, and you should have no problem recollecting them in the middle of a freestyle. Now for the good news. Think about this. You've just added 125 words in rhyme patterns that you can use in a freestyle confidently at any given time. That's in one day. It took you how long? 10 minutes, maybe. If you did this exercise religiously every day, you would amass roughly 4,000 words a month that you can use automatically and learn how they rhyme and bounce off of each other. You would never worry about going blank on the set. Here's another good fact. Someone who has a good vocabulary in the English language, on average, they would have less than 60,000 words in their vocabulary. Using this one simple method, it would take you 18 months, and you would have already associated every word that the average person would understand, and you would have ways to rhyme and bounce off of each and every single one of them. Not bad, huh? Further, I want you to consider this, that when you learn one word and the 5 rhymes that go with that, after a while you start to realize that that's only one simple word, which may actually be part of a larger word. For example, we have down and sound. Well, what if we had background? That's 2 different syllables, 2 different words that we have learned. Now let's say that you have 5 rhymes that go with back. Splat, back, counteract, rap, fat, in fact, whatever. You learn to put these words together so that rather than just having a rhyme off of back and a rhyme off of ground, you have 2 other words that rhyme with those as well. Background, splatter sound. In fact, you get down. You can build off of these, and then you start building what are known as multis. When you build multi-syllable rhymes, that's when you become a truly complete MC. You understand how to take these words and bounce them off of each other, not just at the end of a line, but throughout it as well. The more internal rhymes you build, the more crafted and more professional you sound. Rakim was actually one of the first MCs who really utilized this style. By using internal rhymes, he was light years ahead of people. He's still light years ahead of most. And if you listen to his early recordings, you'll see what I mean. So the lesson from all of this is you have to keep practicing this. Build your chord progressions, learn how words bounce off of each other, and utilize it to the fullest of your ability. After a while, you'll realize in the middle of a freestyle, you won't even be concerned about making stuff rhyme. Because after all, a freestyle is not about the rhyme. A freestyle is about the content and the style with how you put these words together. By taking the concern and all the thought process in making the words rhyme, you can focus on these other aspects which are much more important. This is the basic fundamental technique that I and other MCs have used to develop our freestyles to the point that it's relatively automatic. We don't even think about it anymore. And this is the level that I want you to be at. So, practice this exercise every day. It takes 10 minutes. Knock it out. 5 words, 5 rhymes per word. And keep working on that. If you do it even for a month, you have 4,000 associated lines that you can bounce off of wherever and whenever you'd like in a freestyle. Furthermore, one other little trick that I've learned personally, and this actually has some science to it, is when you're in the middle of a freestyle, you see a lot of guys, they put their head down. That's not the way to do it, and I'll tell you why. When you look down, you're not accessing the most important part of your body when it comes to a freestyle. Now, I'm sure that we all know what that is. It's your brain. If you're not accessing your brain, you're not doing the freestyle justice. Now, the best way to do this, it takes less than a second and can improve your freestyling ability immediately. If there's one trick that you get throughout this entire CD, this is it. If you want to improve your freestyles, simply look up. It's really that simple. All you have to do is look up as if you're looking into your brain. Now, it doesn't matter if your head is up or down. Your eyes are what's important. Now, what this does is this accesses 2 parts of your brain simultaneously. It accesses your memory, which helps you with your vocabulary and remembering these chord progressions that you've been working so hard at. Secondly, it also accesses the creative side of your brain. Because we have 2 hemispheres in our brain, you're able to access both of them. You open up the creativity, which helps you paint better pictures and think more creatively, while simultaneously accessing the memory recall. So you remember the chord progressions that you already have put together. So you are freestyling, you are in the moment, but you're much more prepared to do it. This is something that I've used with students in schools, and they were shocked. I was shocked at the improvement that some of these students have been able to show in a matter of 1 second. Just look up. Whenever you freestyle, get in the habit of looking up towards your brain. And if you feel self-conscious about it, all you have to do is wear a ball cap. Pull the hat over your eyes, pull a beanie, a hood, whatever. Put your head down. It doesn't even matter. But you have to make sure that your eyes are looking up. This alone will improve your freestyles exponentially. Now, before we meet some of these characters that you would find in a traditional rap battle, I'd like to take a moment to offer a piece of advice. Treat a rap battle like boxing. Don't participate in it unless it's fully sanctioned. After all, if you were a boxer, how much respect do you think you would get, and how far do you think your career would take you if you were known for fighting people whenever and wherever? The same goes for battles. Save it for the stage. Rap battles are a strange part in our culture. It's one of the few places outside of the Jerry Springer show that you can go on stage and say the filthiest, nastiest, most god-awful things about somebody, their mother, their grandmother, their wife, girlfriend, brother, and sister. And at the end of the day, shake hands, smile, get a laugh out of it, and walk away friends. Only in a sanctioned battle will you meet somebody that has the same guts as you to get up on stage in front of a whole bunch of people, sometimes dozens, sometimes thousands, and will meet you on an equal playing field. That is the respect that you should give to a competitor. That's not something that you're going to encounter with somebody who's just on the street. It may lead in a direction you wouldn't really want it to. Having said that, let's take a look at some of the characters you'd find in a traditional rap battle. A rap battle is a lot like boxing. From the various opponents and characters that you meet in the arena, they all come with different styles. However, to make it simple, you can place all of these styles on one simple spectrum that follows two opposing methodologies. First, on one end, we have the punchline MC. This is somebody who will throw line after line after line directed strictly at you. On the other end, we have the crowd rocking MC. This is someone who will work the crowd and try and get them up and on their side. The difference between these two is this, and it's important that you understand this. A punchline MC focuses on making you look bad, whereas a crowd rocking MC focuses on making themselves look good. Both of their desired outcomes are the same. They want the crowd on their side, and they want to win. In order to be a truly adaptive battle MC, you have to first realize where your opponent is coming from on this spectrum. And then you can do one of two things. Either beat them at their own game, or if they're stronger in their respective style, you have to come from the opposite end of the spectrum and beat them that way. I'll give you an example. Several years ago, I was strictly a battle MC using punchlines. I felt that was the best way to win. I went against somebody who I didn't know. He didn't know me. It turns out he was actually a nationally recognized battle champion. And I didn't know this till after the fact. He is a notorious for using punchlines as well as being able to rock the crowd. When we competed, he tried to go line for line, and at the time, my punchlines were stronger and ended up winning the day. About a year passed before we met up again. Now, I'm sure that he had remembered the last battle, as had I. I went about it the same way, strictly punchlines, whereas he, being a fully adaptive MC, realized that on a punchline basis I was stronger. He came about from the other direction and became a crowd-rocking MC. Utilizing this strategy, he effectively beat me. It's this type of thought process that makes you a champion. You have to see where your opponent is coming from and how to adapt. because no two competitors are going to be the same. With this in mind, you have to realize where you are on the spectrum. First, ascertain your strengths. Are you better at getting the crowd involved? Are you better in getting people up and moving? Are you a likable person? Do you have charisma? Or are you more on the opposite end? Are you better off the top of your head being witty and cutting people down? Neither of them are better. It's just for a given circumstance, one will triumph where the other will fail. It's important to take these considerations. Furthermore, there is a difference between punchlines and stylists. This is another thing that you can use. If you have somebody who is really good with punchlines, but they don't have much style, you can beat them using that. Your style points will come in handy. Jay-Z said it best. He said, when it comes to a rap battle, there's two main points: flow and wit. If you're smart and you got style, you're going to win. This is how you beat somebody who's a strict punchliner. You throw punchlines back, but you focus more on getting the crowd on your side, using style, rapping fast, rapping slow, bringing it back and forth, and trying to get the crowd to back you because you're more entertaining. Because that's what it's all about. It's not who has the best lines. It's about who is the most likable and entertaining. That's why you have to remember humor is an important element in a battle. Think of it this way. Deadpan is a dead man. If you're not smiling, if you don't seem like you're having fun, then the crowd won't either. And if the crowd doesn't support you, you're dead in the water no matter how good you are. It's important to go and look at what your audience is like as well. For example, I saw a battle where this guy was creaming the other guy. Unfortunately, towards the end of the second round, this is in Northern California, mind you, his opponent was wearing a Giants hat, and the MC made a derogatory comment about the Giants. Now, this is Northern California, and he said that he liked the Dodgers from LA. Now, that's not a way to win a crowd. And even though he had technically won the battle from the first minute, because he made that comment, the crowd booed him, and he was booed off the stage and lost the battle. Remember, it's not the best punchline that wins the battle. It's the most charisma, humor, and likability factor that will win the day. If you remember this, you will win the majority of your battles, hands down. The use of props in a freestyle battle is one of the most powerful ways to overcome an opponent. If you've seen the movie Freestyle, you'll remember the battle between Supernatural and Juice. Supernatural beat Juice using 3 techniques. First 2 we've already outlined. He started off with a crowd rock, got the crowd on his side. Then he moved to punchlines, thereby establishing himself on both sides of the spectrum. The third technique he used was the use of props. While on stage, Supernatural went and grabbed a picture that was on the wall and saying that it was a picture of Juice, ripped it off the wall. Then, it was actually the letter S. He began to bag on Juice using words that had the letter S in it. Now, this accomplished 2 things. 1, it got the crowd on his side and kept them entertained. The use of props, rather than just you on stage, you're holding something. You're grabbing their attention and forcing them to focus on what you're doing and what you're saying. Secondly, it also proved to the crowd, once he drew attention to it, using props, it forced the crowd to realize that he was in fact freestyling. There was nothing written about this because he did it off the top with the use of a prop. So we see, using these 3-pronged approaches, it is rap dominance. You cannot be beaten if you're able to focus on these 3 categories. Work both ends of the spectrum and use props accordingly. Using this formula, you can't be beaten. This concludes Disc 1 of the Complete MC, Elements of Freestyle and Battle. By now, you should be able to comfortably freestyle for up to 2 minutes. Practicing your vocab expansion exercises every day will benefit you by adding 125 new rhymes that you will be able to recall immediately in the middle of a freestyle. You'll also learn to count bars and how to make these words fit in a proper time frame. Furthermore, you'll remember the technique that we outlined when battling. You'll think about the spectrum. When you're battling somebody, you'll realize where they're coming from and whether it makes sense to fight them on their own ground or to come from the opposite side of the spectrum and beat them. As we stated earlier, freestyle is an important part of being a complete MC. However, it's not the only part. The next disc will go over songwriting, which will help you, in the words of Juice, become immortal. When you get your words on wax and you learn to write good songs that people repeat over and over again, this will gain you more exposure than any freestyle ever will. We'll go over several topics of songwriting: simile, metaphor, verse development, writing hooks, choruses, things of that nature, and then moving on to vocal technique. We hope that you have found this information beneficial, and you can find additional exercises outlined in your workbook.